Hello everyone, welcome to Needles, Thread and Little Betty. My name's Mandy. Little Betty's down here snuggled up at the side of me. I thought I'd do a different kind of video this time. I'm fairly new at the channel. I only started a couple of months ago, and so far I've done 3 videos uh, all around quilting and the Christmas theme. So I think the first one I did a Christmas table runner. Then I did, Christmas stocking, that's right. Not that long ago, and I can't remember. And then the last one I did was a rag quilt. First one, in fact, it's actually here on the back of the sofa. It's really cozy. Really enjoyed making that. But I wanted to show you that they're not the only types of things I do. So I'm sitting here. I've got a pair of socks on the go, knitted socks. I don't know if you've ever done any knitted socks. I find knitting very therapeutic, and often in the evenings when the TV's on, just sitting down relaxing, I'm normally doing either knitting or crochet. Sometimes I do a bit of hand sewing. I always have to have something in my hands to keep creating. I can't just sort of sit still and watch the TV or anything. I hear what's going on in the TV, but I'm not necessarily looking at the screen. I'm looking at what I'm making, but I do seem to know what's going on. So at the moment, I'm making a pair of socks for my husband. This pattern that I'm using, which is a Stuart is it Hilliard or Hillard? Hillard. Stuart Hillard pattern. I've made these socks before. I've made a couple of pairs, one for my husband, one for myself, and I really enjoy making them. A little bit fiddly in places, but when you've done it a couple of times, you just sort of get used to it. The pattern that I've used, it's a free pattern on the Stylecraft website, I believe, and Stuart Hillard designed the pattern and the wool, the sock yarn that kind of goes with the patterns. The sock yarn is, it's a Head Over Heels by Stylecraft. And you can get all sorts of colours in it. Walking in Nature, this one is. And I'll show you. So there's the yarn that I'm using. Beautiful colours, sort of greens, a little bit of purple, blues, a little bit of brown in there. And when you knit them up, you can see how the pattern sort of develops as you're going along. And they're very colourful and really comfy. Like I say, I've already made us both a pair before. If I remember, I'll put a picture up in the description. I'll put a picture up of the ones I made so far, because obviously I'm not going to get this finished during this video. But they're so comfy, and they wash really well. I think it's on a 30-degree wash, but they wash really well, and they keep that. You know how sometimes when you're knitting, if you're a knitter, the wool could kind of go loose after a little while and lose its elasticity. These don't. They seem to wear really well. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm making them with these I think the 2.5, that's the UK size, 2.5 mil double pointed small knitting needles. It looks a little bit like a puzzle, doesn't it? When I first used these, I looked at them and thought, no, I'm never going to do that. But then once I started using them, I found it really easy. I mean, you can make socks with circular needles now, and a lot of people do that. I've only ever made a couple of things with circular needles, and I can't seem to get on with them. I don't know if it's because I'm old school and I've always knitted with straight needles. But saying that, I have used them a couple of times, and I will use them in the future. I think, and the more you do something, the more you get used to it, and the better you get, don't you? But I'm using all these. I'm not going to read out all the pattern to you, but basically you cast on your amount that you want for the size that you want, that's stated in the pattern, and then you divide it between 4 needles. So for instance, this one, I think, I can't remember what I cast on now. I'm sure that's it, 68. So the 68 stitches you start off with, and I've just divided it so there's 17 on each of the needles. And you don't change the needles, you just stay on the same ones throughout. There's 5 needles here, so I've got, when you've done one, knitted the stitches on one needle, you end up with a spare one, if that makes sense. As I'm talking, I'll be knitting along and then I'll show you what I mean. So I didn't just want to talk to you just about knitting. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing. Why am I doing this? You might think. I've been a crafter all my life. I've always made things, whether it's been knitting, sewing. I remember having one of the hand sewing machines, the ones where you wind with the handle, a Singer sewing machine with it had like a wooden top, and I remember having one of those when I was about 13, 14, 15, something like that. And I used to make, I can remember making a patchwork dog. I used to make things then, and it wasn't long after that where my grandmother actually taught me how to knit, and so I started with that. I do crochet as well, but I didn't learn that until later on in life. In fact, it's probably around 10 years ago, I think, when I kind of self-taught myself how to crochet. And I love crochet. I made lots of things. In fact, this blanket here, it's not my own pattern, but this blanket I crocheted. I think it was, the pattern came from possibly Hobbycraft UK. I can't remember. It's been a while, but it's just an example of some of the crochet that I've done. I've got a thing about making blankets. I've done. If you know crochet, you would have heard of Janie Crow. So I've made her Persian tiles, blankets, and knitted. Do a lot of sort of granny squares, that kind of thing. So I do crochet as well, but learnt that later on. Make lots of toys and things like that. I do quite a few things really, and I kind of wanted to do the channel because what got me into doing the channel was I read an article several months ago in a magazine, and there was an article about a lady that started up a YouTube channel, lady in the 60s, and it's called The Last Homely House. Now, I think I mentioned this in the last video I did as well, because I talked about, I've got a design board for my that I use for my sewing, and I got the idea from this lady's channel, The Last Homely House. So I read this article about this lady and I was really intrigued. So I put put the channel on, and I never used. I watch YouTube channels now and again. Usually if I want to do something, I started lace making a couple of years ago. Haven't done a lot of lace making, but I watched a few YouTube channels then, because it's quite handy when you're learning a new skill, following some of the tutorials. So I watched. I can't see what I'm knitting now. I'm just going to keep carrying on with this. So I watched this lady's YouTube channel, and I was just absolutely intrigued by what she was doing. She does all sorts of different crafts. She does a lot of makes a lot of quilts, but she does spinning as well. And I'm sure she said that she started her channel, it was around 8 years ago, just spinning wool into yarn for knitting or for working with, and just chatting about what she was doing, and that's how she started off. And she goes on. I mean, the family's involved with what she does, and there's a lot there about the family, and also she talks about the home life and things like that. Very interesting, and it kind of inspired me to start my own channel. So I just thought I'd give it a go, and like I say, I've always been crafting, and I've always been making things as a hobby, but never really done a lot with it. And now I've got to the time in my life. Well, I'm 61 in a couple of days, but when you see this video, I would have turned 61. So I'm 61 in a couple of days. I've gone part-time at work. I still work, but I've gone part-time. So I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. Let's just see what happens. I've got a lot to say about crafting, and it's really great if you inspire other people to make things and do things. So that's why I started off rambling on a bit. I do ramble, which you'll notice with my videos. But as you can probably tell, if you've seen any of the other ones, and probably tell with this one as well, is I'm very new at it. I film everything with my mobile phone. I've got a little tripod and a little microphone now. The sound's always been a little bit, and I'm kind of learning as I go along. A little bit of advice from my son and my daughter-in-law, or daughter-in-law to be, and because she's got her own YouTube channel. Hers is around beauty and makeup, and so I've had a little bit of advice from them, and so I just thought I'd give it a go. What I'm hoping is, because the videos so far are a little bit clunky, and not professional, I'm hoping as I get along, the content in terms of sound, and the filming features, the editing and all that, I'm hoping to get better and better, because once I start to get a lot of people watching, hopefully if I get a lot of people watching and liking what they see, it, hopefully you'll just enjoy it more, and keep tuning in, and yeah, so that's kind of like where I'm at with all of that. The reason I've called my channel Needles, Thread and Little Betty, the needles, sewing needles, knitting needles, and that thread, just trying to do something a little bit sort of that indicates it's not just one thing that I do, but also Little Betty, because Little Betty is like a little soulmate. I mean, I've got 3 dogs, and they're all very loving. But Little Betty, she never leaves my side. So where I am, unless I'm at work, where I am, Betty is there more or less. And she's having a little bit of a sleep now, so I'm not going to disturb her, but she's only around, how old would she be? She's around 20 months old now. But just after she was 1, there was a little bit of an accident and she actually lost one of her eyes. Absolutely heartbreaking at the time. So she was bundled off, rushed off to the vets and that, and unfortunately they had to remove one of her eyes. But she made an absolute full recovery. You wouldn't even notice. And she just runs around playing as usual now, as though nothing's happened. But obviously it was quite devastating at the time, and I think we've just spoiled her even more. So hence she doesn't leave me or my husband alone. My husband's at work, by the way. He's an engineer, and where he works, it's kind of like he works 1 week of early shifts and 1 week of late shifts. So this week he's on late shifts. But yeah, so she's kind of like, we dote on her, she dotes on us. And if you notice when you've seen her on the videos I'm usually holding her, I introduce, this is little Betty. She's got all her hair over her face, and that is how it naturally grows. But we've kind of left it there because it covers up where she lost her eye, and people can't even tell just by looking at her like that. So that's little Betty. The other 2 dogs, we've got 2 other dogs, and we've got Anna and Hilda. Anna is a collie dog. She made a brief appearance on the last video, but you don't see, and you won't see, a lot of Anna. Anna's only 10, but she's got diabetes, and she's also, well, I'd say partially sighted. She can see, we believe she can see kind of shadows and light, but she can't see very well at all, and that is that's been impacted by diabetes. She was only diagnosed a few months ago, but she is on insulin and we need to inject her. And she's just, since then, she has days where she's quite good, but other days she's not got a lot of energy. And because she can't see very well, we don't walk her as much as what we did, and she just gets quite distressed because she bumps into everything. So she's kind of, right now while I'm talking to you, she's lying on a mat over the other side of the room. So yeah, so Anna, you won't see a lot of Anna. Then there's Hilda, who's the middle one. She's 8. So Hilda is what they call a jackapoo. So her mum was a toy poodle, and her dad was a jackapoo, which is a poodle cross Jack Russell. So she's quite small as well as Betty. Betty's tiny. Betty, by the way, is a Bichon cross Yorkshire Terrier. Okay. So Hilda, again, you may see the odd bit of her on the videos, but again, she's another one. She's not poorly or anything. She's just very, very lazy. She sleeps a lot and she just curls up and doesn't like to be bothered. She'll play with Betty now and again, but generally she's on the settee most of the day, most of the night. She loves a walk, don't get me wrong, she loves a walk. But yeah, other than that, no. So you won't see a lot of her. It'll be mainly Betty. Betty is very, very playful. Not doing a lot of this knitting, am I? So yeah, so that's a little bit about the channel and a little bit about the dogs. I mean, I live here with my husband and the 3 dogs. We live in a village in Leicestershire. sort of on the outskirts of Leicestershire, next to Derbyshire. It's kind of like we've got Leicestershire, Derbyshire, and Nottinghamshire, all next door to each other, where we live. And it's about 10 miles from Leicester. More or less always lived in Leicestershire in the UK, in England. And it's the area that we live, it's in the Charnwood Forest area of Leicestershire. So it's very it's got some lovely places, lovely countryside. And we moved in this, we live in a bungalow. When we moved here, it'd be about 2.5 years ago now. And I don't know if you're the same as us, but you move it, we've still got things in boxes. We've got an attic full of boxes and things we haven't unpacked. But it's one of those, you kind of, when you first move in, you want to do this room, you want to do that room, and do this, and do that. And yeah, we've done some of it. We've this room that I'm sitting in, our living room, we've done this when we're really happy with it. But we're kind of slowly moving round. So a lot of it is how we've moved in. But it's a lovely house. We love it. So yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is, when I do the next video, it will be along, because we're coming up to Christmas, and you know, we're in the middle of November now. It's probably, what's Christmas, about 6 weeks away. Sorry if that puts pressure on anyone, but I think the next sort of couple of videos are going to be along the Christmas themes again, because people like to make things, and there's all sorts of things that you like to do and decorate, and people like to make gifts and things like that. So um, I've got a couple of ideas of what I want to do for probably the next couple of videos. We'll kind of go from there. And then when we go into the new year, I'll probably do something else around, probably knitting or crochet. I've got another couple of ideas about that in my head as well. And I guess, yes, I mean, if there's anything you want to know, or you want to ask me, or anything about any of the projects that I'm doing, if you probably noticed that I get muddled up with my words quite a lot, because I know exactly what I want to say in my head, but then it's getting it out there. I think my head wants to say something, and my speech is kind of following up afterwards. A few years ago, I did a writing course. I used to do a lot of writing. I still do a little bit now and again. But I used to do a lot of short stories. I mean, I've started a novel. I've started a couple of novels. I get right into it, and then they go away for a while. But I went on this writing course that was facilitated by the author Stephen Booth, who is famous for his Cooper and Fry detective series in novels. It's actually become a TV program, and I think it either starts this week or next week. By the time you see this, it would have started. The Cooper and Fry by Stephen Booth. It's a detective series all around Derbyshire Peak District. Beautiful place. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. So what I was going to say was, so I did this writing course with him, and I gave him kind of a couple of pages of the first chapter of this novel I was writing at the time. Just asked him to kind of give it a read, see what he thought, see if it had potential. And he said that it did, although I've not done a lot with it. But he said to me that some of the sentences I write backwards. And when I thought about it, I thought, actually, I do. And some of the sentences I say backwards. I don't know, is that a form of dyslexia? I'm guessing it is. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm mumbling along and getting my words mixed up sometimes. I can't help it. It's just what happens. So hopefully you'll excuse that. But if there is anything I've really confused you over, just ask me and I'll try and get back to if you want to make any comments or anything like that, and I'll try and get back to you. Yeah, so it was nice having a bit of a chat for a change and doing something a bit different. I've not done any of this while we've been talking, but when I finish them, I will put a picture up somewhere and so you can have a look. Okay, so I'll say goodbye for now. Enjoy your evening, and I'll see you soon. Bye.